episode of the DC crossover, episode 137. I am Ben Simpson. That is Mike Cerrone. And this is what we're going to be doing here in 2023. I think we're going to be doing more and more of these live shows. So that way we can get all you guys to engage via Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the different channels we stream on, as well as check out the clips of this show on TikTok later on. DC Crossover Podcast is the TikTok. A lot of good clips from last week. We
Oh,
did
yeah.
our end of the year show.
Hey, it's the
And hey, look
Preds.
who it is. It's the Predators. There's our guy or girl. We don't know which, but the Predators, for those who don't know, we've talked about it on the show. Leave some really nice comments for us over the time, and they disappeared for a while.
Yeah.
But
Where
they
you
go.
been?
The Predators back. Appreciate the
Predator,
watch,
we want to know where
viewing.
you're listening from.
Yeah, share some sort of information. Give us not your exact home address, but feel free to let us know how you found the show. And again, you can comment just like the Predators did on any of those platforms, and we'll share them throughout the show as well. Big show today, a lot to get to. We do have our resolutions for the DC teams for the new year, so we're going to be talking a little bit of resolution talk. Of course, we will be also talking about this collapse of the Commanders, and also a new mascot that we will be talking about in a moment as well. Before we get to that, Mike, I did want to ask at the top of the show. By the way, there's a new background for those who are watching this live.
Oh, yeah.
You see, I threw a lot of things that I felt like are relevant to us. A lot of food items. I threw some logos in there, some little Deborahs. There's a chicken sandwich in there. I'll keep tooling around with it. That was just my first run through with the background, so we'll add to it as we go. But
we forgot Entenmann's though. Rest in peace,
yes.
Entenmann's. And
yeah,
Mr.
I see Tasty Cake on there. I don't see Entenmann's on there, but we'll add to it for sure.
Right.
Because this is the new live video element. We also have some video clips to play today on the program. But Mike, I did want to ask. So new year, new you. Any immediate changes to anything here, diet wise, exercise, any sort of things that we know we're just gonna break, right?
I feel like you ask me that every episode. Like, hey, how's the diet going?
Yeah, that is true. I do ask that.
You know what? I want to ask you a question of when someone buys a Peloton or like a Peloton treadmill. Like Peloton's coming out with every device now.
Right.
When someone buys one of those, is that like cheating? Because the thrill of trying to work out and everything like that is trying to actually go to the gym. That's the first step. Not, oh, I'm going to come home and then, change it to some basketball shorts or whatever, then go to the next bedroom over.
But that's way better. Why would I want
to
get in the car and drive to the gym?
But Peloton, I mean, they make these damn things so damn expensive. They're making me go to the gym, and then these other people just walk out of their bedroom and they're like, "I'm ready to rock and roll."
Man, I wish I could afford a Peloton. I think the thinking is, in the long run, whatever you paid for the Peloton, you would over time save on what you would have paid for a gym membership. I think that's.
I mean, I get it. I get it, but it's just for me.
Plus, you don't have to, like you said, you can just be in your underwear. Like working out, not have to worry about anybody actually looking at you shirtless. Because that's like when you're big guys like Mike and I mean, that's half the battle of going to the gym is like, I'm the fat guy going to the gym, like that's part of the issue. And especially around January, you can't be the big guy in the gym in January because like everybody's all mad that you're there because you're taking up machines from the regulars, and everyone is looking at you knowing like, hey, this guy's going to be here for a month and a half, and then he's going to be throwing in the towel. So there's a lot of pressure around the live gym experience for the big fellas.
Yeah, I think that honestly the biggest I wouldn't say gripe, but I think the biggest challenge for people trying to get in shape, obviously it's cold. Right now, it's actually not that cold, which is funny because they said it was going to be a terrible winter, and all that we had is like 1 4-day span of like freezing temperatures. I haven't seen a speck of snow, but I think the biggest thing is the first week, because when you look at the first week, it's always, oh, I have to go to the gym, and then I'm so hungry later because obviously you haven't trained your stomach to get smaller because you can have smaller portions. Like after the first week, when you're like, oh yeah, I'm not that hungry or whatever, then you're like, okay, I don't have to sit there and find a snack after I just ate an hour ago.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Is I think that's the biggest issue that I usually have is the first week. Now it's going to be tough because I'm trying to get back in the swing of things of work and everything like that because winter break now is over. And Fairfax County is now going back to school tomorrow. So that's not going to be great. But at the sole fact that, I have Jess is she's saying the same thing. Like she's like, all right, this new year, new me, like
New year,
everyone
new
else
you.
says.
That's the move.
So
that's what you announce
yeah.
in January, and then by the time May rolls around, I feel like we all tap out. Like that. That's kind of how it works with this stuff.
Well, the big thing I think also though is especially working in the school system. Now I know that working in the school system, some of these kids they just wear you the hell out. So the problem is that when we get home, it's always like, man, I just want to take a nap. And especially last year. Last year my schedule was hell. So literally I came home and took naps all the time. That's probably why I was so out of shape over the last year. Is because I took naps all the time because I was so exhausted. But now it's like when you get off work, you just have to keep moving. That's the biggest thing. You can't stop because once you stop, you're like, I'm out. I'm checked out. So that's my goal is to maybe, try to figure out a little bit more exercise during the day at work, but then also when I come home, run over to the gym at my complex and just, knock out something real quick and then figure out something. But I don't know. We'll see. No, like you said, any changes? Not really. I still.
So it sounds like you're the exact same.
I ate 4 cinnamon rolls last night. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. At night too. So it was a nighttime cinnamon roll.
So just a side note, my one of my students, they for all the teachers or all the teachers that their kid has, because I'm a specialist, I get them all the time too. And there's a big rack of like 8 cinnamon rolls that I think they somehow they pre-make them or something like that because all it is they're frozen and then you have to pop them in the oven for like 15 minutes at 375 or whatever and they come out like fresh as a daisy and it's unbelievable. Dude, it's a weird thing. Like it's not like a Costco bit or anything like that. It is unbelievable. I mean, dude, these cinnamon rolls last night, I just wanted to put them in front of me and just keep eating them. But I had to save one for Jess because she fell asleep because we were watching the Steeler game for her. And the funny thing was is that she fell asleep right after the game ended. I'm sitting there like, just digging in, watching Last Chance U by myself. And I said, I have to save some.
Last Chance U. New year, man. I mean, like
New year.
Some people are like, hey, it's January 1st. Let me let me not eat a cinnamon roll. But you went right into it,
one of my buddies asked me like, hey Mike, have you worked out in 2023? I said, seeing as it's only been one day, no, I haven't. No. like dude, relax.
And he said that with a full mouthful of cinnamon rolls. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, by the way, I got 2 more that I'm gonna polish off tonight before I have to work out tomorrow.
I mean, it sounds incredible. I'm highly jealous. If you do want to join the conversation, of course, you can drop a comment on any of the channels, just like we did on the last week's show. A lot of activity on that program. If you didn't check out our Festivus episode, feel free to go back and watch it again. You can watch the replay. Talked a lot of food talk. That was the majority of the talk, but that's what the show is about. Let's hit the rewind machine. A chance to go back and discuss what happened in the previous week in DC sports. And we will start with the Washington Nationals. Again, not a ton to talk about there with it being still in the offseason, but Tanner Rainey is coming back to the Nats, a 1-year contract, as well as Erasmo Ramirez, as I talked about last time on the show. And then the big news today, the Nats sign infielder. This isn't big news. Michael Chavis, former Red Sox and then Pirate, signed him to a minor league deal. So it's one of those situations where it's like you sign him to a minor league deal, you see if he can win a job out of camp. This is a rebuilding team, so you're kicking the tires on some of these guys. And so that is what the Chavis signing is all about. This is a guy that had a lot of high hopes and really did not get the job done last year, hitting 229. So not that great of a player. Let's move on to the Washington Capitals, Mike, which we were talking about a couple weeks ago. We're like, man, this team's dead in the water. They're not looking good. This might be a rough season. they're right back in things now, third place in the Met.
No doubt about it. Obviously, the Caps, they had a lot of injuries going on for about a 2 or 3 week span, but then they started getting some guys back, and now they're on a roll. They beat the Rangers on Tuesday 4-0. Darcy Kemper with 32 saves. Good to see him back in action and kicking some ace. Sixth straight road win. Johansson, Gustafsson, Eller, and Sheary all with goals, so goals all around. And then on Thursday, heartbreaker to Ottawa. That game should have easily, I had money on this game too, almost hit the correct score. I actually had it 4-2, and it would have paid out, I think, 12-1, which would have been really nice, but that didn't happen. So they lost to Ottawa 4-2 in overtime. Caps led by 2 goals at one point. The Senators scored 1 minute and 31 seconds into overtime. Ovi did score his 803rd goal. It's kind of hard to say 803rd goal because it's going to keep rising. Then, after that disappointing loss on Saturday, they just laid the wood to Montreal, 9-2 on Saturday. Ovi with his 30th hat trick in his career. Now 88 goals back of Wayne Gretzky, and Charles Lindgren goes in there with 31 saves. It's kind of funny, though. You think about it and say, there's no way Ovi's not going to catch Gretzky. I mean, at this pace, this guy is going out there. He scored 4 goals in the last 2 games, and he's like 57 years old. I mean, let's be honest here. This guy is not stopping. But moving on to another team that is actually on a nice little run themselves, the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, the Wiz Kids have been solid of late. 17-21 now, 10th place in the Eastern Conference, but they've really battled back from a really bad beginning of December for sure. So they beat the Sixers on Tuesday, 116-111. KP with 24 points, Bradley Beal with 19. Beat the Suns on Wednesday, 127-102. Rui Hachimura has been on fire, and he matched his career high with 30 points in that one. KP and Kuz with 22 points each. Beating the Magic on Friday, 119-100. KP, great game, 30-13. Kuz 23, Beal 16, and then beat the Bucks, shorthanded Bucks. I mean, there's no Giannis, no Drew Holiday, no Chris Middleton. Right. 5 straight wins now for the Wiz Kids. Rui 26 points in that one, as the Wizards again continue to just dominate right now. I mean, it's good to see. Obviously, it's a long season. You never know what's going to happen. Still time for them to move up. I mean, I still said at the beginning of the season, hey, this feels like a top 8 team in the East. Right now, they sit in 10th. It's still possible, but we'll see. And by the way, before we move on, we do have a question here from the Predators. Again, you guys feel free to drop in your questions. How do you feel about the Ohio State and Michigan games? Yeah, we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the final lap, but just initially, I mean, some people are saying some of the best semifinal games we've ever seen. I mean, the TCU game obviously was absolutely nuts. I mean, the scoring was unbelievable. And then you have the Ohio State game where I was thinking Ohio State was going to be able to pull it out. And, the missed field goal, obviously, Georgia stays on. And now I think Georgia is going to take it all at this point. But, yeah, crazy semifinal games.
Well, it was crazy that the Michigan game actually went over 90 points. I mean, that was just insane. But I think the best part about those 2 games is during the Georgia game, I never felt that Georgia was out. I think Georgia was playing well on offense. They just had a couple missteps to the point that Ohio State ended up capitalizing on those missteps. But then Ohio State kind of lackluster and kind of just stayed in that one little, like we like to call it, no man's land, like we're going to talk about a little bit later for a different topic. But you're looking at it and saying they were like, all right, we just have just enough points that Georgia's still kind of in it, and then Georgia came back. And the best part about it was, I was texting you about this, that I literally laid down $15 in 3 different time increments because I was betting on Georgia when they were down by a lot. When they were down by whatever was 14 or whatever, I bet on Georgia to win the first half in the first half. And of course, they didn't ended up doing that because the kicker missed a kick. But then I also had the money line for Georgia, and that ended up cashing $5 for 20. So that was good. But overall, that was fun. I'm telling you right now, I love seeing shootouts in these playoff games because defensive battles are just boring. But I love defensive battles sometimes, every now and then. It's kind of like a pitching duel when it comes to baseball. I like that kind of stuff, but when it comes down to these big type of games, I want to see a shootout. And I think that's what we're going to see when TCU takes on Georgia, because Georgia's defense is great, but Ohio State kind of probably gave them a little bit of a playbook to go with TCU, especially because TCU is a big high-flight offense as well.
Christy Mills Perry watching the Rose Bowl right now, tied up at half, 14-14, Penn State and Utah. Yeah, that Tulane USC game was nuts today too. Crazy college football games, and that's what we love to see. I mean, you want it to be fun and exciting, like you said. Like, you don't want it to necessarily be blowouts. You want to see some tight games. You also want to see some high scoring. So we definitely got that. That's for sure. Let's move into the it's going to be one of the few times we're talking about these guys for the rest of the year. Well, it's about to start 2023. What am I talking about? But this season is a lost season. Let's talk about it. Oh man, the Commanders, of course, losing to the Browns 24-10. Carson Wentz, 3 picks in this one. A lot to be unhappy about, but let me start us on a lighter note, Mike, because I'm gonna and this is for all the people watching on the video.
Should we start on a lighter note, or should we go on a?
We got to start on the lighter note. No, okay, we got to start on the lighter note.
Before
we got to
show
off. We got to show off. This is our guy here now, Major Turdy. There he is.
Major Turdy.
He's got the helmet on. He's got the gold pants, or sorry, the red pants with the trim there. He's walking around. Major Turdy, the new mascot, Mike. There he is, greeting some fans.
I don't understand it a little bit. I mean, I understand like the hogs. See now he's like beating his chest, like his big stomach.
Yeah,
I'm a little confused. I'm a little confused by the mascot. Now, some people are like, "Oh, I love Major Turdy," and it's getting kind of creepy when they say that, because I've heard like most people say it like that.
What do you love about him? I mean, it's like,
oh, do you want to go down the pros and cons?
Well, yeah, it's like, what I mean. Okay, so obviously he's a reference to the Hogs, right? Like, obviously,
yeah.
So it's like, okay. And then is the major part because it's the Commanders now, so we're it's like a military theme, so we're saying Major Turdy.
Yeah, so they went with Major Turdy, and they had the helmet on and everything like that. But I just think it looked kind of weird. Like they boosted it up like it was some crazy reveal. But then like I don't know why I know it's a pig, it's a hog or whatever, but like the jersey is like padded, like he has a big gut and stuff like that, and he's like smacking his gut. It's not the Phillies fanatic. Like, let's be honest here. It's supposed to be. Wouldn't you like that hog to be like? It's getting kind of weird. Would you like that pig to be like ripped, like some like jacked up like pig? Like,
I get what you're saying.
Like something that's seems powerful, not just some pig in a football uniform.
Well, now, first off,
they had the hogettes and everything like that, but let's be honest here. I just think it's kind of odd.
He's pretty creepy looking too. let's not forget that we're not getting some nightmares from looking at him. But it's also, I agree with you. It's like if we're trying to, so there's different sides to this, right? Like, obviously, the mascot is going to be more for like the kids and the family, like that's like
appearances.
So, but at the same time, it's like it just feels like another kind of weird, embarrassing thing for this. Now, look, we're not taking this too seriously. We're not saying like this is at the same level of some of the other, like the Sean Taylor quote unquote statue or pile of sticks or whatever that was. We're not saying it's at that level. But I just feel like this is yet another kind of thing where it's like, man, we couldn't have crowdsourced this a little bit more. We couldn't have gotten some more opinions from guys because I don't know. He's according to here's Tuddy's bio. Let me
here's a bio.
Find this. Yeah, he's well, first of all, he's supposed to be 6'5", 230, according to his bio, which I mean that's not true, right? Like there's no way he's 6'5", 230.
I wish I had a quarterback like that.
He is a muscular 6'5", 230. Okay, he's not muscular. We know that too.
I just addressed that.
With exaggerated features that are anatomically similar to the animal, including a large belly, snout, and cloven hooves. Major, obviously, from the military tie. Tuddy is a slang football term from touchdown. Okay, we all know that. Key elements of Major Tuddy's personality includes being a prankster, a mud roller, the life of the party, a protector, and a foodie. This is that sounds like you, Mike. You're all of those things.
This is, jeez. This is what is this? Like who came up with? Oh, let's give this mascot like make him a person. Like
he's from Upper Marlboro, Maryland, for some reason. I don't know if that's what it says. It says hailing, but it makes a joke. It says Upper Mal. I can't even say these words. Marlboro, but it says Boro, Boaro, as the joke because Boro.
Sneaky,
Major
sneaky.
Tuddy has a lifelong love for all things DMV, including go-go music and mambo sauce wings.
Mambo sauce wings are so overrated.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with you.
I just don't understand it. Like they're trying to make honestly, this mascot reveal was, and I didn't even think it was that great, was 10 times better than our friend Doug Williams, sitting there talking about hugging commanders and stuff like that. Because honestly,
when you found out what the new team name was, what was the initial reaction?
Well, the reaction was, I'm gonna hug Commanders, because that's what we are, and we got to go forward with it. And I do like the name. It got a good sound to it. Washington Commanders. So here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go. Here we go. And maybe whoa, there he is. There's Craig. Craig coming back. That's how Doug Williams, that's the first thing I could think of when I took a picture with Doug Williams, literally at the game a couple weeks ago, was that clip of him just
the
command.
Should have been like, Doug, we play that clip pretty much every single show.
Well, I told my family, because obviously it was before Christmas. I literally told my family that Doug looked like, when I took a picture with him, Gary Clark sitting like, hey, man, why don't you stand next to Doug? And I was like, all right, that's fine. I looked up at Doug, and he looked like he had no idea what planet he was on. Like, he just didn't even know where he was at. It was out of this world. But like Major Tuddy and stuff like that, I just think they're trying to make this seem like it's some cute and fun thing and everything like that. Like before we had Chief Z. That guy was iconic, just like Fireman Ed and all those type of guys. But you're looking at now we got a pig, and I don't even know, man. It's just all out of this. It's all out of this realm. Like I'm just like lost at this point.
There's Justin Waddell saying, "Yeah, we've turned into such a joke organization." I mean, it's true. It's this team and this organization. I feel like there hasn't been a thing lately in the last like couple years where it's been like, this is a really cool thing the Commanders did, or Washington football team did, before that, and that sort of thing. Like there hasn't been a shining moment for this team. It feels like every single thing that happens, every single time they're in the news cycle, it's either for something like heinous on the Dan Snyder side of things, or it's something that the rest of the league is laughing at the team about, like Major Tuddy, which is it's just like, what are we doing here? Like
if they get a new owner and they rebrand this team like the Wolves or something, like Major Tuddy is just going to be. He's not going to be there.
What's going to happen to that costume? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, what's going to happen? Hey, it might be in the shrine next to the coat hangers.
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. And then, so we go from the lighter side to the not so light side, and I want to get into the Ron Rivera stuff at the top because he did have his post game, his conference today, where he was walking back what he had said in the previous day, and all those listening to the show know what happened, but still, basically Ron Rivera, was told basically by Grant Paulson that the team was eliminated, and Ron Rivera seemed to express confusion and that he did not realize that was a possibility. So he's walked back. So here's the quote from him today where he's kind of like walking back what happened or providing some sort of excuse. He said, I know I made a little bit of a gaffe yesterday, not realizing that we could get knocked out of the playoffs. But to be honest with you, I never thought we would lose. I was anticipating winning. I was anticipating getting our game flexed to Sunday at 8:30, which is just, to me, it's just like such a cop-out excuse, like to say like, oh, I don't pay attention to anything but winning. It's like, but that's not just your job. Your job is everything. The winning is part of it, but it's also to know this is a must-win game? Like, so does that mean going into this game, Ron Rivera was not necessarily realizing that this was a must-win game, which is a little alarming. I mean, I know, like, I think Ian Rappaport tweeted out today, like, I don't see why this is a big deal. And it's like, this is a big deal because your job is to know this stuff. You're getting paid millions of dollars to know this stuff and to be on top of every scenario. And you don't necessarily have to talk about it all to the media all the time, but you should know internally, like, all right, if we lose this game today, there's a chance we could be eliminated. Like, these are all the scenarios that are happening here, because he's being asked questions about quarterback situation for next week. And he's like, yeah, I don't know yet. We're going to think about it. It's like, well, the season's done, man. So, I mean, you got to know this stuff. I feel like it's embarrassing. It is another embarrassment for Rivera and for the team.
My biggest gripe, and just as you mentioned, he is in charge of so much in this organization. Now, when Dan Snyder hired him, he basically gave him the keys of the kingdom, just like he did with Mike Shanahan. The exact same situation. They basically gave the keys of the kingdom and said, hey, you go get your personnel, you go get this, you go get that, you do all this kind of stuff. But the problem is that, just like you mentioned, it's kind of ridiculous that you don't know the scenarios of this. You're in your office or in the locker room or whatever, wherever you're at during the week consistently. Yes, we have jobs. Yes, we're going to do things, but everyone like us knows that. And yeah, we're not game planning and whatnot, but you don't think that he saw a tabloid or something on TV that said, oh, this is the scenario that the Commanders need to get through to the playoffs, or the scenario that, oh, they could get actually eliminated. Now, I will say, granted, I did not know they could get eliminated this past week, but
you're
that
not
was
the president of the organization.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, because
not president, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. But when they said like, oh, this is the elimination situation, because I wasn't really thinking about that. Now, it's his job. He should be thinking about that. He should be thinking about scenarios.
He should be having people around him whose job is to think about that and to let him know about that situation. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to all be on him, but it also just reflects badly on everyone around him. Like, why is an assistant not mentioning that to him? Or like, why is that not in his notes that he's getting? Or I don't know. It's like, why to have that happen at the press conference look, bottom line, is it the biggest deal in the world? No. But it is not something to just gloss over. It's not something to just be like, no big deal, don't worry about it. It's like, no, your head coach had to be told by a reporter that the team could be eliminated from playoff contention. Like, that's not a good thing.
Well, I just think that, and I saw someone say it on Twitter. One of the good things I saw on Twitter over the last, I guess you could say 2 weeks.
What a disaster
Twitter
has been.
I fell into the abyss of Facebook this time, bud. So that was horrible. I was out in Pittsburgh and I couldn't stop. I couldn't sleep.
Yeah,
so
I sat. I've seen it.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. I felt bad for myself for doing it. But I just think that the one good thing that I saw on Twitter is that this one person mentioned that, and it wasn't really a great comment. I mean, it was just a normal comment, but it just made me laugh because they said, we want to get these old codgers out of here and get some new blood. And that made me laugh because it's like every single coach that we keep bringing in here is some old bag that has been in football since like the 70s. I mean, literally, and we're going to get into it here in a minute. Someone that I was discussing with on Facebook compared Taylor Heineke to Bart Starr, and I started laughing about it because I'm like, Bart Starr was in football in like the 60s. Like, my parents weren't even born when Bart Starr was playing. So it was just funny to me because you think about those type of coaches and how this game has evolved. You can name so many coaches out there. I mean, just look at the coaches that have come out from our organization's tree: Kevin Stefanski, Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay. Then you could also include Shanahan in there. I mean, that's 4 right there. I just named the top of my head. I mean, or Matt LaFleur. There's 5. There's 5 guys that came out of our organization that are probably under 45 years old, maybe under 40 years old. I'm not exactly sure what ages they are, but Ron Rivera has to be in his mid 60s or something like that, right? Low 60s. It's like football is evolving to, how they said like, oh, it's a passing attack league. It's this, it's that, whatever you want to do. But like, they want to try to sit there and use these old tactics and have a terrible play caller and all these different things to the point where you're looking at the staff and just saying, what are we doing? Like Jack Del Rio fell on his face yesterday after having multiple great weeks. His defense started falling apart because he had two, secondary guys out that are key contributors. John Allen gets hurt in the second quarter or whatever it was. So you're looking at it and saying he couldn't adjust. And it's like, we've been saying that about Ron Rivera for years now. He can't adjust at halftime. And overall, it takes maybe a good stretch of 6 weeks for him to save his job. Like, it's like, this is just ridiculous at this point. I just think it's getting kind of old.
Yeah, and this is, and I disagree with EB all the time on some of his tweets, but so he's talking about, the counter argument is Ron coached to win anyway. So like, because he was very fired up about this whole situation about Ron, not knowing that and stuff. He says the answer to that is in elimination games, you throw everything you got at them. Does anyone on the planet think they tried every possible permutation to win that game, every personnel combo, every blitz, etc.? I do not. So, that side is if Ron is just saying, hey, all I thought about was winning. All I'm trying to do is win the games. Then you could watch that game and be like, are you sure? Because there was not a lot of creativity out there. There was not necessarily an all hands on deck attitude, it seemed like, on the sideline. And there's definitely a lot of mistakes made that the team continues to make. It continues to just be awful. But you're right. You're right on the assistant side of things. And we got to talk about it. We won't spend a ton of time, but we got to talk about it, Mike. We got to talk about this Wentz Heineke stuff, and let's set the record straight for once and for all. Here is Mike and I are not Carson Wentz stans here. We have just said repeatedly on the show that we felt like he would be the better option over Taylor Heineke. Does that mean we think Carson Wentz is the best quarterback in the league? No, of course not. Do we think he's even in the top 15 quarterbacks in the league? No, I don't think so. But we do think that he gave the team the best chance to win. And of course, obviously, there's no defending the performance the other day. Like 3 picks,
right.
Just looked bad. Really only had a couple nice moments. Like, we're not here to say like make excuses from him, but I just want to be clear that like just because we don't think Heineke is the guy doesn't necessarily mean we think Carson Wentz is the guy either. I mean, they're both pretty bad at this point.
I mean, you're looking at it and just saying that people are irrational. And this is my biggest gripe that I have with this whole entire conversation that everyone wants to have. People are irrational because we've been so desperate for quarterbacks that he brings excitement to the position. Now, the defense kept us in these games for so long. But the problem is that I see is that everyone likes to say, oh, what's the win-loss record, like we've been mentioning for weeks. But the problem is they keep saying the win-loss record, but they don't realize what has he done for us lately going 0-2-1. So that's the reason. Everyone wants to say that he got benched because of the San Francisco game. No. He didn't get benched for the San Francisco game. He got benched because he had 2 big, huge games against a division rival and could only muster up, 16 points in both those games, or 15 points average. And one of those games was at home with 2 weeks to prepare, prime time, lights shining in a terrible stadium with the house packed, and he can only muster up 12 points. Oh, well, the refs lost that game. No, they didn't. Okay? The refs lost the game in the final seconds. You had 58 minutes and 27 seconds or whatever it was to score more points, and you didn't do that. You let up a fumble, scoop and score to Thibodeau, and it's just – I just think it's bad because, again, people are irrational because they love – again, as I want to say, the moxie and the gamer attitude and all this kind of stuff.
The spark he brings to the bench.
Yeah, it's because I saw a comment the other day and someone said like, oh, Taylor deserves a big bag of money. He saved Ron's job twice. It's like last year he was 7-9. I just don't understand it. Okay. Last year, and everyone wants to say, oh, well, Carson Wentz choked last year against the Jaguars. And it's like, yeah, he had Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor ran for like 80 yards when he was averaging like 120. Okay. So it's not just him. And also, he doesn't play defense. So it's like the guy that throws 27 touchdowns and 7 picks, they made the move to go get him. Okay. And everyone's like, well, we could have got him because they were gonna cut him. It's like, okay, now they're making excuses and like what if situations. But the problem is that, like you said, we're not against Taylor Heineke. I love watching him play. I think he gives a boost of entertainment, as everyone wants to say, the spark. Everyone wants to say that. But sparks don't last long. That's the problem. And I even said it myself on Twitter that you don't understand that when you want to say, we're going to ride the hot hand, that means you're going to ride the hot hand until it goes cold, and then you're going to make a different decision. And while he was winning games and we were having some fun and we won 5 of 6, that was great. But the problem is once the hot hand started faltering a little bit, and we went 0-2-1, it was time to make a change. And also, the secondary option of this, which I know you agree with me in this, we didn't know if we were going to re-sign him for next year for a obviously different contract. We're not going to pay him $30 million. Let's be honest here.
No.
But you're looking at it and saying, if he would have went out there and performed like I thought he might this past week, and then next week against Dallas goes out there and performs again and leads us to the playoffs the last 2 games, plays well, then we could say, all right, maybe we'll sign him for $15 million a year or something like that. But now that's out the window. Okay.
No. Yeah, that's
punt the draft pick or whatever we gave away. Who cares? Okay. We got Cam Curl in the 7th round. We can find guys in those later rounds. It's not that big of a deal. We actually tried to go out and get a quarterback. So that's the biggest thing that I like what the organization did for once, is that they actually went and made an effort. They didn't draft some guy, because Dan Snyder's son went to high school with him. It's like they didn't draft him because of some weird reason, but they actually tried. They gave effort, and that's one of the reasons why Carson Wentz should have gotten the opportunity to start. And I still think it's funny how all these reporters and stuff like that, man, well, we care about the team. I cannot believe they took Heineke out. Like, it's just irrational. Like, people don't get it. And they always want to sit there and compare. I had some guy, forward me an article that was written by a blog that was like back when Heineke had 2 wins when he beat the Packers and some other team. He's like, oh, this blog proves everything, that Heineke's so much better than Wentz. Heineke dreams. In his dreams, he dreams of throwing 27-7 like Carson Wentz did last year in Indy. He dreams of that. The problem is you see him go last year and everyone forgets about last year. Anyways, I'm done with my tangent, but the biggest thing is that people just need to stop being irrational and understanding that he's a backup quarterback. Everyone loves him in this area, but they don't want him as a starter. That's the main key. We don't want him as a starter, but we want him with the organization because everyone is loving his performances when he comes in there as a spark for an injury or something like that. No one loves him to go out there and start 16 games and go 7-9 or something like that, because that's just average, and that's what this team has been for years.
And then one last note here, of course, we're talking about next week and stuff, and yeah, it seems to be, and I agree with this. A lot of people are saying that Sam Howell, you might as well. I mean, you're out of contention.
Yep.
Might as well see. Not that this is a be all end all, but the question posed here is, what would Sam Howell have to do to convince you that a QB isn't a need this offseason? I mean, I think, I don't think Sam Howell having a good game and against the Cowboys here to end the year is suddenly going to be like, oh, we've got our guy. So I think this team should be hunting regardless for the quarterback position. But it would be nice if we were able to get something out of Howell in that game and show like, hey, maybe there's a backup QB battle next year with him and Heineke or something like that.
I think honestly, the thing that Howell needs to show us, if he starts, which obviously hasn't been made official yet or anything like that.
No.
If he starts,
Ron didn't even know that.
Yeah, right. So the biggest thing is I want to see some good plays. I want to see some. I don't even know how to put it, because that Dallas is going to come out and play because they're trying to get the divisional crown. So you know that they're going to come out and play. So Micah Parsons is going to be out there. All these other players are going to be. CD Lamb's going to go off and all these different players, Dak and whatnot. But that Dallas is going to compete. So if he goes out there and he competes and makes it a thrilling game, or at least shows us some flashes, that's good. But just think about the San Francisco 49ers. Think about the New England Patriots. Think about some of these teams that have multiple quarterbacks. You don't think it's a bad idea to maybe move up and get C.J. Stroud or even a Bryce Young or something like that? Now, I'm not saying move up to the 3rd pick or the 2nd pick. I'm talking about depending on how this week coming up finishes. Don't you think it would be a good idea to maybe draft another quarterback and then say, all right, we'll have this guy, if Sam Howell wants to be a starter this year, okay, we can see how it goes. Taylor Heineke can be the backup, and then we'll have on the I don't know, whatever squad you want to call it, not the practice squad, because obviously you can be stolen off that. But you have CJ Stroud or somebody, whoever you get to be in the locker room and be with the the coaches and stuff like that. Now it depends on what coaches we have. Let's be honest here, but I just think that you look at those teams that have had multiple quarterbacks, they trade those quarterbacks for picks because they find their guy. I mean, look at Jordan Love. He wants to be traded if they don't move from Aaron Rodgers. So it's like you just know that some of these situations can give you draft picks. So I don't think they should be out of the quarterback thing just because Sam Howell has one game. I mean, can Sam Howell be the future guy? Maybe, but that's obviously to be seen.
Moving on, I did want to run through some New Year's resolutions, Mike, for each team, and I want to definitely get your thoughts on these. I've got one for each team, and I got to get the Christmas music going again because we're talking resolution. So look, I know it's not the Christmas show anymore, but we're still clinging on here a couple days into 2023. So we will start with the Washington Capitals, Mike. My resolution for the Washington Capitals in 2023: find a way to bridge the gap between the old guard and the youth. It's something we've talked about on this show countless times, that the days of Backstrom and Wilson and Ovechkin are numbered. And now it's going to be about, all right, well, who are going to be the next faces of the franchise? How are they going to gracefully integrate these younger generation of Caps without having to tank or be bad again? And so that is my and I think it really, honestly, I know Ovechkin's playing at a high level. I know the team's doing well, but I think this is a pretty crucial year for something like that. I think not only this season but the start of next season as well.
Yeah, honestly, when you mentioned that, it's a big thing for me too. Like, I honestly think that this was a resolution for me last year as well, because they've made some changes. Don't get me wrong, they made some changes, but I think it was a huge deal when Ted Leonsis came out and said, "Oh, Ovi, we're going to stay competitive until you get that record," which means they're just going to fill gaps and stuff like that here and there. Which I still think they should make sure that, like you said, they start filling in some pieces, get McMichael some more time, and get a bunch of. I mean, Fairvarius turned into a good player. So I just think overall you need to figure out ways to get younger, but also stay competitive, as they said before, which now that you're seeing it, some of the old guard that's still, I mean, Backstrom's still out, Tom Wilson's still out, and we've already won, what was it, like, at one point, was it 8 out of 10 or something like that recently? So you're looking at it and saying, we can stay competitive, and that's even with 2 of our top guys out. But the biggest thing I think is, like you said, keep some of these younger guys influenced into the lineup, because once you get more and more reps in the third and fourth line, or either on the back 2 lines of the defense, then all of a sudden you start to become more acclimated to the NHL game rather than trying to get recalled up from the AHL and all that kind of stuff. It gives you more time. So I think, honestly, what you said is perfect, because they need to make sure they stay young, but also as competitive.
Moving on to baseball, the Washington Nationals resolution for 2023. I said they need some gems in the draft. You got a big number 2 pick in the first round for the first MLB draft lottery. That is a crucial pick, because this organization has obviously had some big hits in the draft. I mean, some can't misses, obviously, some of the first round number 1 picks, but number 2 pick, you're still getting a really, really solid player. There's a couple guys that they're looking at. I think for a rebuilding team, I think not only this upcoming draft, but likely this team is going to be bad this year, and they're probably going to have a pretty good 1 through 7 draft pick the following year. I think it's really about these next couple drafts, as well as obviously developing the young guys that are in the system that they draft, the Elijah Greens and the guys they drafted in the years past. But this is big time. I mean, Rizzo, obviously, he's not going to be around here forever. This might be one of the highest picks he has before maybe he leaves or they change what's going on. I mean, who knows when new ownership supposedly will come in. So I think this is going to be a really big pick, Mike, this number 2 pick. It's kind of like one of those things where you have to hit this. You have to give the organization some continued hope that, hey, maybe we've got another Strasburg or Harper or Rendon or Turner. No, they didn't draft Turner, but one of those big guys.
Honestly, I think that's a perfect resolution, because of the sole fact that when it comes to the draft, I think they honestly might talk to Pittsburgh and actually say, like, hey, who are you thinking about? Give us 3 names just so we can kind of prepare ourselves. Because, I mean, let's be honest here. Pittsburgh.
It's not like those two teams are going to be battling in the NLCS anytime soon. So.
Right. I mean, you think about it, and I mean, they obviously have to talk to one another because if you're like third, then it's kind of hard to talk to 2 teams and say, hey, give us a couple names you're thinking of.
Right.
Obviously there's, a few number 1 options for Pittsburgh. So you would think about, who they actually might get. And I think Rizzo might talk to them and say, hey, we're just trying to get our head around the few names that we're thinking about and whatnot. So give us a few names. I think that they'll work out that way. But I mean, you're just looking at all the guys that we got in the farm system now, and also like the Abrams and all those different type of guys that are moving up here now. You still got Luis Garcia, Victor Robles if he wants to decide to hit one of these days. Some of these guys that you see that are up at the club right now, those are going to be the guys that you hang your hat on when these other prospects come up from the actual farm system. So in my opinion, I think that's a good resolution, because when you're looking at the draft and also looking at some of the prospects coming up, I think you need to give Cade Cavalli, maybe Jackson Rutledge some time in the majors and try to get those guys to start getting some time up here. Because my biggest thing is, I think within 2 years, by the time Juan Soto's a free agent, 2 or 3 years here, I think it's going to be a whole different story for this ball club. So yes, pump the brakes a little bit. We're not going to be competitive for a year or two, but I think when it comes like 2025 or so, just watch out for this team.
Yeah, I have up on the screen for those watching live. I got the MLB's 2023 mock draft, and right now they have the Nationals taking the pitcher out of Tennessee, Chase Dollander, who, they had say right here he could be one of the best college pitching prospects in Strasburg and Cole. So we're talking a major arm. This was a guy that was throwing absolute gas. I mean, his Twitter clips were kind of must watch. So we'll see. The Nats have obviously drafted some strong arms over the years. Some of them have worked out, some of them haven't. But we'll see. I mean,
question for you though. What I want to talk about with you is what would you prefer to draft? Because obviously this is a topic for another day, but I just wanted to do a quick thought, which would be, what would you prefer to draft? Because I'm always a position player guy.
Yeah, I don't like drafting arms either.
Yeah, because you can, I mean, if you have an owner that wants to spend money, you can go out and buy those pitchers just like we've done in the past. We've gotten Max Scherzer, we've gotten Patrick Corbin, we've gotten a few other guys for the bullpen. I mean, Mark Melanson and those type of guys. So it's like you're looking at that. I would rather get a position player that can go out there and have more days to improve. I mean, you think about a position player going out there and playing every single day in single A and double A and all that kind of stuff. A pitcher going out there and throwing bullpen sessions and stuff like that. That's great. But, I think it's a lot better to get a position player, because those are a dime a dozen, because half of them are already locked up for 10 plus years.
Yeah. Unless your organization is specifically known for being good at developing young arms. Yeah, I'm with you, because those guys, they kind of blow out their arms all the time in the minors and things like that. You see the guy who was a hot prospect in high school or whatever. I know this is a little different because this guy did pitch in college. It's not like you're drafting, a guy in high school. But I'm with you. I like the position players, because they also might be, if with a good position player prospect, you could deal that guy as well. I mean, that's somebody you could work out later on. So yeah, I'm definitely not a go draft the guy throwing 100 necessarily. If it works out, it works out. Great. But for every Strasburg and Garrett Cole, there's Eric Fetty. So
right.
Washington Wizards, we don't have to spend a lot of time on this one. Basically, my resolution for them is figure it out. Either you're going to go all in, you're going to go get a big name in free agency, and you're going to really make a go of this, or blow it up and tank and go try to get a good draft pick and things like that. But being 10th in the East doesn't do anybody any good. It really doesn't. So you're going to have to figure it out at some point. Now, I'm not saying that, you fired Unseld or anything like that. Like, I think you give him more time, but I think, for everything else, I think you might as well just start shipping off some of these players. I think you got to blow it up at some point, because what you're doing right now isn't really working. You're in 10th place.
Right. I think that another big obstacle when it comes to GMs is maybe when they go to like the owner or something like that and say, honestly, I'm telling you right now, this is probably not going to work. This is that, or whatever. The owner's like, no, I don't want to do that because I don't want to lose money with the fans or whatever. So I think that's also an obstacle, because I think a lot of the I mean, geez, let's be honest here. I think a lot of the GMs would want to do that, but I don't think the owners.
It does depend on the owner. I'm with you. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, Ted has to be on board.
Right now, my opinion, Tommy needs to blow it up and then move along with whatever you got. Because, I mean, I would much rather watch the Oklahoma City Thunder or, I don't know, the New Orleans Pelicans or something like that at that point, getting all these young, talented guys and going out there and competing, just like your Detroit Pistons. You have a lot of young players, a lot of players that have talent galore, but then you have situations like Washington here where it's like, oh, we just lost 11 of 13 and we're in, like you said, 10th place, and it doesn't really help us at all. So
yeah,
I choose to blow it up, but that's just me.
Yeah, I'm always a fan of it. Blow it up, but you have to do it correctly. You can't be in the always rebuilding mode. And then last but not least, Commanders. Pretty simple here, Mike. I think you clean house at this point. I think nothing seems to be working. 5 straight losing seasons for Rivera, I think I saw. So nothing is working. I mean, most coaches. There's a lot of coaches in this league that their jobs don't last past 3 losing seasons, much less 5. So this is a results league. If you're not getting it done, then then you're just not the guy to do it. So my opinion is just blow it all up. Figure it out, blow it all up.
I mean, honestly, that's the exact same thing I could say is, you need a new owner, you need a new coach, new offensive coordinator. I mean, even get rid of the defensive coordinator, obviously at that point, and then just honestly go in it. Like, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'm hoping for is to get a young blood head coach that's an offensive mind that knows what he wants to do, knows what quarterback will fit his system, all that kind of stuff. Now, I don't want a Cliff Kingsbury situation where he says he goes out and gets, obviously Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray isn't that great, as well, at least my opinion is. But I want him to go out there and say, like, yeah, we need to go get a CJ Stroud. Like, trade the farm, CJ Stroud. I'll die with the ship if I need to. Like, that type of guy. Because I want a guy that trusts his quarterback and not to waver back and forth like, oh, well, we're going to stick with the backup quarterback and all that. It's like all these different type of things. And like I said, an old codger type of guy. I don't want some old man, that's sitting there crossing his arms. I'm not trying to rag on the guy, but like, let's be honest here. I don't want him sitting there crossing his arms and just like staring off into the distance, not knowing what the scenario is.
He always looks like he barely knows what's going on at any time. No, Ron Rivera. It's so. He looks like he's so checked out when you look at him on the sideline, like, and things aren't going right. He barely. We could spend an hour on this.
I'm sure we'll have an end of the season thing next week or something like that. Or 2 weeks from now,
for sure. A season recap. Let's hit up the final lap. A chance to go over some bigger stories in sports and beyond. 90 seconds on the clock. Here we go. Tom Brady finds Mike Evans for 3 touchdowns and 207 yards. Hope you guys had him out there in your fantasy leagues, that's for sure, as the Bucks find their way to clinch the NFC South.
I bet the under passing yards for Brady didn't work out for me.
Apparently not. Not if you had 207 just for Evans alone. We already talked about this. TCU obviously upsetting Michigan. Georgia beats Ohio State. Sets up for a Georgia and TCU championship. Who you got?
You know what? I'm going to go with TCU, honestly. I just think that TCU, I mean, Ohio State gave the blueprint to TCU. The Horned Frogs now know how to beat the Georgia Bulldogs because everyone said, oh, Ohio State, bet Georgia on this. Ohio State's not going to be able to score points, this and that. TCU went up against a top 5 defense in Michigan and just ran train with 51 points. So I think I'll go with TCU in this one. But if you have to, go with TCU in the spread, which is like 13.
Yeah, we'll give my pick later for sure. I might have thought that and loved that. A bent rim in this game. This is a weird one. In the Celtics-Nuggets game, 35 minutes for them to figure this one out, Mike. 35-minute delay. Imagine being there as a fan, sitting in your seat. 35-minute delay for your basketball game.
If you can't play with a bent rim or a leaning backboard or something like that, like we used to play out in the blacktops. I mean,
you wanted them to continue, not even fix it. They should just keep playing. Nope. Okay, that's a different angle.
Yeah, come on.
Steelers.
You're a professional basketball player. Get out there and play on it.
Mike's Pittsburgh Steelers, they stay alive. Their playoff hopes, second consecutive game-winning drive for the Steel City. A couple fun scenarios at the end of the season here. Obviously, as my Detroit Lions have a playoff scenario heading into their Sunday. It's funny. I was saying to my friend earlier that if only Matthew Stafford was still healthy, because if Matthew Stafford had an opportunity to help the Lions make the playoffs, that would just be such a great storyline. I mean,
I bet he would try too, because he so loves Detroit.
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. But obviously, Steel City, Mike, they're looking pretty solid right now.
Yeah, obviously, Jess is a huge Steelers fan, and I'm telling you, we're out, so it's like, who cares? But at this point, I'm rooting for the Lions, for you, my boy. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever, well, maybe a couple times, but I don't think I've ever like been that invested in a game, especially last week's Steeler game too, because I mean, obviously they were both in prime time, and I bet on both of them, so obviously I'm always in the games that I'm betting on. But I mean, I was intense. I was. You know, when he zipped it in to Najee Harris on that last touchdown, it was pretty exciting, not going to lie.
And then last but not least, this is non-sports, Mike. I want to show you this Tesla Cybertruck here.
That's still a thing?
This is the
look at that thing.
I mean, I don't think I've seen an uglier vehicle than this.
What are you going to put in that? Lumber?
It has got to be one of the ugliest cars I've ever seen. Let's get okay. I don't need to see the underneath the wheel. Let's get another. There's the front view.
Wow.
I mean, I think it looks like
one of those Transformers.
It's one of those things where, like, I think they thought, oh yeah, this looks really cool. This is really cool. And then like, everybody else is like, no, that thing's ugly, man. Like, imagine driving around in that. That's embarrassing. So you're yay or nay on that, on the Cybertruck, right?
I'm gonna go with a nay, but I mean, like I say, you don't call it a Cybertruck because it's like, I mean, whenever I see a truck, unless you're driving a Raptor or a really nice truck that you put nice wheels on, all this kind of stuff, that's not gonna be like a work truck. Like, don't get a truck if you're gonna not haul stuff in it, unless, like I said, it's going to be one of those Ford Raptors or something of that nature, like the Call of Duty truck or the Shelby truck and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Like, those are not really hauling type trucks. Like, I'm not going to go to Home Depot and get, a ton of lumber and just throw in the back of a Cybertruck. I mean, that makes zero sense.
Cybertruck.
I mean, this thing feels like it's the thing in GTA where like you can bounce up and like,
like it looks a lot like a GTA truck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a really tricked out GTA truck.
Oh
man, I gotta break out that game again. Let's hit up the trivia machine. We'll knock out this, and then we'll do our money line draft picks. But yeah, let's start with Mike's trivia corner here.
All righty, so the DC crossover episode 137 trivia question of the week. It's a Georgetown men's basketball trivia question because we're not going to go with the Commanders because the Commanders don't deserve it. Here it is, Ben. I think you could probably get this.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah, me too. What team did the Georgetown Hoyas defeat in the 1984 men's basketball championship game?
So I think this is the famous one, and I feel like, was it Georgetown against? Wasn't, man? I feel like it was Villanova. I feel like it was Georgetown Villanova. Villanova, final answer.
Incorrect.
Oh no, was it UConn?
Incorrect.
No? Was it Houston?
Houston.
It was Houston. Okay.
There you go. Good one.
It was in the brain somewhere. Dang.
I'll give you a third of a coin.
So stupid. I'm so stupid. I mean, I knew that because was that the Phi Slamma Jamma Houston team? I don't know.
I don't know. I wasn't born.
But wasn't there a big Georgetown Villanova game, like a famous Georgetown Villanova?
Because that was the only championship, I believe, by Georgetown, right? They were in the Final Four a couple times. Allen Iverson, I think, took them to the Final Four, maybe, or the
1985. Georgetown lost to Villanova. So what year was the thing that you're talking about?
I think it's 84. Yeah, 84.
Oh, okay. So I was off.
You're a year off. Okay.
Year.
That's what I said. I still gave you a third of a Bitcoin.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Okay, yeah. So it was the 1984. Okay, blah blah blah. All right, it was good. That was a good question. Yeah,
thanks.
I'm glad. I'm tired of the football questions. Again, I don't know. I'm not. I wasn't. I didn't grow up a long time Redskins fan. I don't know this stuff. but the fans like it, so I'm totally fine looking like a fool for them. Let's hit up the money line, sponsored by DraftKings. No ad read this week, but still support our sponsor, DraftKings, and feel free to use our promo code DC Crossover. Picks of the week. I will start. We talked about this game earlier. I'll start with my dog, TCU plus 13.5 on DraftKings this morning. I mean, you're not going to get a juicier spread than that. TCU plus 13.5. Are you kidding me? That is it's almost a lock, but they're a dog. And then my lock, I'm saying Cowboys minus 5.5 against the Commanders. I mean, we're thinking probably Sam Howell is going to play, but the Cowboys still have some stuff to play for. So I feel like they're going to run away with this one. I mean, I would even say this is probably going to be, if we're like a 13.5 type spread, like this is. The Cowboys are going to destroy the Commanders, unfortunately.
I mean, it's not really unfortunate. We're already out of it, so who cares?
Yeah, I guess.
Let's be honest here. I totally agree with the Cowboys, obviously. Minus 5.5, though. I mean, I thought that would be a little higher.
It'll probably grow the closer we get.
Yeah. Well, noticing that the Cowboys are still, I mean, because you could see some of these spreads, especially the one that I'm going to go with here for my dog here in a second. You can see how inflated they are because of the implications for certain teams.
Right.
So, anyways, my dog, I'm going to start with my dog, Arizona Cardinals plus 14 at San Francisco. Now, I understand that Arizona, they're playing like their 7th string quarterback, and no one really cares about Arizona anymore. Kingsbury might be out. Is it Kingsbury?
They just
or
cover
Kingsbury?
this. They just covered this week, didn't they?
Yeah, because they were playing the Falcons, so that was only it was like 2019.
Falcons
something
are a
of that
little
nature.
different than San Francisco.
Yeah, San Fran obviously didn't play that great either in their game against the Raiders. So you're looking at this and just saying Arizona plus 14. It's a big spread. San Fran, they don't have a ton on the line, so I think that honestly, if they get like an injury or something like that, they'll still say, screw it. We're already in the playoffs. We're already having a home game. So let's just kind of cruise in this one. And I think Arizona might just like have a backdoor cover or something like that, because I think this is a huge spread. Then going along with my lock, Jags minus 6.5 over the Titans. I just think that this is a win and you're in game for the Jags or the Titans. Whoever wins this game wins the division. The Jags are on a hot streak. They've covered 4 or 5. They have young guys on the roster. Trevor Lawrence is playing immaculate. He scored like 57 points this week or something like that. It was unreal. And the Titans are just playing like I was gonna say a cuss word, but held back.
We're live. Can't get his band already.
And the Titans are just playing awful. Like I said, Jags have covered the spread 4 of the last 5 weeks. The Titans have not covered the spread in 4 of the last 5 weeks. And the one time they didn't cover one time they did cover, quote unquote cover, was a push. So they still haven't covered the spread pretty much in the 5 of the 5 weeks, in the previous 5 weeks. So Jags minus 6.5, Arizona plus 14. Lock it in for the picks of the week.
That is your DraftKings money line picks of the week. Next week we'll have another promo for DraftKings heading into the wild card round. So looking forward to that. Besides that, people, I mean, we definitely want to do more and more of these live streams. So we will tweet out or put out on social channels when we are doing these. When we are, it will be likely Mondays around 6:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Just wait until we do our drafts live.
Ooh,
that's going to be saucy.
Summertime drafts. Kick back with a nice Truly and a cinnamon roll. And, that we do need a good, like, pastry draft maybe at some point. I mean, there's some.
We did do those. Did we do those live? Or no, we did the Final Fours live.
Yeah, we did those live. So we'll figure it out. We'll do that'll be summertime, obviously. But that'll be fun. So definitely stay tuned on all the social channels here and catch when we do hop on live. And then also, if you want to catch clips of the program, go to TikTok, DC Crossover Podcast on TikTok. Mike puts out the clips there, and we've got some good engagement on the talk recently.
Oh yeah.
So we appreciate all those who have been. Yeah, talk is definitely talking right now.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, if you don't have TikTok, I was going to say something else. I mean, I'm on fire right now. If you don't have TikTok, just go on there, and you don't even have to watch anything. Just follow the show on there.
Right. No,
it helps us out.
It takes 2 seconds.
And if you don't care about TikTok, go on there and just like the videos because it helps our numbers as well. Honestly, we've had like I mean, probably, geez, I don't even know. Maybe the last 5 or 6 videos we've had blown up with likes and stuff like that, which is great. But the biggest thing is TikTok, like you said, shows all of our clips. Instagram, it's nice to have Instagram. That's just a side piece to this whole entire ordeal. But TikTok is the one that gives us the likes, gives us views, all that kind of stuff, gives us more analytics. Instagram is just there. We don't care about Instagram.
Yeah, no, Instagram for podcasts, I feel like is just not, unless you're cutting all these crazy promo clips and all this crazy stuff. It's just not worth it. But so many places to find us. We always talk about, of course, Twitter at DC Crossover and at Cerrone16 if you want to get into some Twitter fights with Mike. And then, of course, the show's on Facebook and YouTube as
Bring
well.
it on.
We appreciate the time. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week. Take us out, John Z. DC Crossover.
Johnny.